Hey guys, how is everyone doing? I know I haven't posted in some time because I've been working on some stuff, so those of you who have recently subscribed and those who have been subscribed, thank you for your patience. So in this video, I'm basically doing a 30-day challenge, and I did a 30-day challenge last month, but I did it all traditionally, no color, just ink and paper, and this time I wanted to try something different. So I found that in June we have a new challenge called Junicorn, where we just draw unicorns for the rest of the month. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. The first one is fire. When going about making this first horn, I was thinking a combination of a fireplace and as well as lava. So what I did was I basically made a fiery horn coming out of like rocks, and then the horn itself, the way I drew it was to look as if it was kind of keeping together molten rock of some kind. For the very first horn, I guess I did kind of go a little fancy for this one. The next horn was water. I had recently drawn a fae of some kind with water, so I was really excited to be able to draw the water design that I had on that undine, as they're called, and to put it onto the horn. I also know that unicorns are creatures that purify diseases and I believe poison, depending on the lore. So oftentimes I think that a unicorn puts its horn against the water to purify the water. So that's what I kind of did here with a water horn tapping the lake, or a puddle in this instance. The next one was a little hard to start off at first. It was air, also I guess wind at the same time, and I originally wanted to do something related to wings because of Pegasi, but for some reason I was kind of mentally drawing out a selenite wand, and selenites are related to like angelic and like the crown chakra, so I figured this would be appropriate. A bit of a stretch because selenites are not geared towards the wind element or the air element, but I figured throwing some angelic feathers around would heighten it in a way. And plus, I just really wanted to try drawing a crystal because I do know I want to draw crystals more in the future. Turned out to be probably one of my favorites that I drew. The next one was Earth, the final element in this challenge. Now for this one, I kind of thought of something very basic where I would draw a mountain of some kind with a little bit of a different peak because not all horns are perfect. Nature is imperfect in its perfect way, in my opinion. I did draw all of the trees relatively the same because I wanted it to kind of be like a landscape distance kind of thing, so that way the trees don't take away from what's really important, which was the mountain. The color scheme in this, I originally kind of messed up, but I think I only tweaked it a little bit later on, so because rocks are kind of difficult to draw. I have not really gotten into drawing landscapes digitally yet, so this is like kind of like an introduction. I did do a ocean thing about a year ago, which turned out relatively good. I just haven't really like sat down and did it, so enjoy this one here. The next one, I kind of strayed a little bit away from nature. I decided that instead of making a glowing light horn, that instead I would draw a mini unicorn inside of a light bulb. Because, well, light and electricity is constantly moving. Who can't say that there's been the shape of a unicorn in the electricity? I've drawn glass a few times, so this wasn't too difficult to make. What was difficult was the fact of having to have it light up, but not be just a turned on bulb. I wanted it to look like as if it was kind of dim, but bright at the same time. So this one was fun to make. It just was different regardless. And the background will be black, so you'll always know where it is on the calendar. I was debating to make the light bulb blue, but it turned out to be a nice yellow, but it looks good regardless. So because I didn't do a light shining horn, I decided that because I wasn't really going for a theme for those two, I decided that I wasn't going to follow a theme. Now if you know that, or if you followed me for some time, you know that I've made some bendy videos, you know that I've cosplayed as Alice Angel, I've even drawn Alice Angel multiple times, and have done crossovers with. This is one of my favorite games, and to be honest, I just really love the character Alice Angel, so I decided to draw a horn, but instead of the halo that Alice Angel has on her head, I've decided to wrap it around the horn instead, making kind of like a different type of aesthetic in this. Aether, or soul. Aether, from what I researched on Google, seems to be something like quintessence. Immediately thinking Voltron. It's basically this substance that the world is kind of made out of. I don't know how it relates to soul, so what I did was I kind of made a horn that kind of has those like rings around it that you would see in like a cartoon, like from the Jetsons, where they have that kind of aesthetic, and then very, very straight lines going down, because I feel like futuristic stuff have a lot of perfect angles and stuff like that. And then the stars. So I basically made kind of like a futuresque, galactic, abstract horn. So what I figured what I would do for this is I would draw horns in the shape of a brain. And I did 2 of them to do the left and the right brain because I feel like they complement each other. So the first tree is the wisteria tree. I basically, since this was my first tree, I guess I just decided to draw the tree. This one took me kind of some time to draw because I wanted to do every single individual leaf. I have to say though, drawing this was really fun. I really liked the idea of turning the horn into the trunk and then putting the leaves around it. I don't do this every single tree that I did, or every single prompt day, but I did it as many times as I wanted to, because, you know, sometimes you're like, you want to do something different. But I really enjoyed the greens and the purples and the browns with this. It was very, very beautiful in my opinion. Probably one of my favorites as well. I went back and I added a few more, well, the highlights to the brain horns that I made. This one was the Japanese maple tree. And I actually didn't realize that I actually have a couple of Japanese maple trees in my neighborhood. When I looked at the leaves type, I was very, very shocked, to be honest, because I actually didn't think that we had Japanese maple trees. So this one was kind of interesting because the color scheme that I picked for this is not the stereotypical color scheme that I have. The orange that I usually use is not the same one. So I went a little bit into the drawing, or the reference itself, and just decided to use that myself, just eye-dropping colors. I usually don't do that, but I think because I was at my grandma's house at the time and I was kind of tired, I just got a little lazy. But I really don't like to eye-drop things unless I've already saved the color previously. Antarctic Beach. This one, I honestly, this one was really, really fun to make. I was a little stuck, puzzled what to do and how to draw it, but I eventually figured out that because these trees are really tall, that I would just draw the roots. So I decided to draw a unicorn hidden among the roots. So the thing about these trees is that they are stationed in Australia, even though they're called the Antarctic Beach, which I find very ironic. But these trees are over 3,000 years old. I can't even fathom that because I will never live that long, which is insane. Which probably is why I find these trees so amazing, because trees just live pretty much I don't want to say forever, but 3,000 years is older than any living creature. The next one, I actually went from absolutely loving drawing the piece to not liking the piece at all. So this one is the Angel Grove tree. And as you can see from the reference, this tree is all over the place. The only thing I could really think of in the beginning was making this into some kind of wing, but even then it looked kind of weird, and I honestly was like, I could literally just turn a tree into a wing anytime. So because this tree obviously is different from everybody else, where it's all over the place, I decided to draw it inside of a glass horn that is breaking out of it. This way I didn't have to draw the leaves, I just had to draw like fancy glass. I don't like this one. It's obviously I was trying to be very creative. I feel like maybe I went a little too far. It also probably is because during this time I was feeling pretty lonely, so it kind of helps, didn't really help with that situation, so negative emotions are with it, I guess. But it looks nice regardless. Like, you know, sometimes art is created out of some of the most interesting emotions. The next one was sugar maple. Now, I had just drawn a Japanese maple, and I realized a maple tree is different from the sugar maple. Or no, a maple tree is different from the Japanese maple. But I started to think, well, why do I have to draw the tree itself? The prompt is not telling me to draw a tree. It's basically giving me an idea. So for this one, I decided to draw a horn that is glass that is pouring out maple syrup, because maple trees are known for making maple syrup, or having the main components to making maple syrup. This one took me a little bit longer to make than most of the horns. I can't believe how often I'm actually drawing glass in this calendar compared to drawing actual like wood and trees, but you'll see. The next one is a fall birch. Now this one I was super excited to draw because this is probably one of my favorite trees. I mean, look at them. They're white trees and they have spots on them. The reference with the beautiful fall leaves, I think, Not sure if this is a fall. I probably should have done a little more research with this, but the colors are just so stunning. I was like, I would love to turn this into an actual horse. I actually loved it so much that I decided to copy and paste and basically just change up the spots a little bit and the colors to make it an aspen tree. Because, well, an aspen and a birch tree look very, very similar, so I figured we would just put them kind of like that to show the similarities. I have no idea how to pronounce this tree. I think it's called the Jaraconda. Jacarandas? Let's go to Google real quick. Google Translate, if you may.
Jacaranda.
I pronounced that 100% wrong. Thank you, Google. I don't even know if Google's pronouncing it right. Oh, it's a Japanese tree?
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda. Oh my god. Well, that's what I did. I essentially, for this tree, decided to do something similar with the tree above it, which was the wisteria now. But I drew a sideways horn because, you know, horns are not perfect. And then having the trees branch, or not the trees, it is a tree, duh. Having the branches come off the side, and then just drew kind of like a cloud like leaves, because I guess I kind of felt like I needed a basic like tree that we did when we were 5 years old and drew the bumps. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody did that. And then make it fancy. And it actually turned out pretty good, and I actually really like it. Next is the dark hedge, which I think is not really a tree, but the location where the trees are along the sides, as you can see from the reference. I decided to just draw one of the trees in the shape of kind of a very, very crooked, scary looking horn, because I started thinking of like Sleepy Hollow and stuff like that, and I thought, well, time to make a creepy tree along the pretty ones, huh? American elm. This one I figured I didn't really want to draw a tree because it would be a basic tree that was green, which probably would be nice, but I wanted more variety. So what I did is I actually looked up the seed of the American balm, and I made a horn-shaped version of its seed. And it actually looks really nice. I'm actually glad I picked a seed. I actually didn't think the seeds looked like that. I thought all seeds kind of looked the same. Little did I know, huh? What's next is the blue... What is it called? Click, click. Blue...
Jacaranda.
Blue jacaranda. Or...
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda. Jesus Christ, that art. Oh, That's so cringy. Like, I have to say, the English American, oh god, that's so cringy. But regardless, the blue jacaranda, I decided to draw the seed. Like I did with the American elm, I decided to draw the seed, but I did have fun drawing a walnut-shaped horn. I mean, look at this thing, it's so cool. This next tree is honestly my most favorite that I drew. It is called the rainbow eucalyptus tree. This tree, during a certain time, if you pull the bark off, it actually looks like a rainbow tree. I dare you to Google this and you will see nothing but what my reference looks like. It is so beautiful. Cannonball tree. Now this tree is exactly how I envisioned it. As soon as I saw the word cannonball tree, I was like, this is gonna be a tree that looks like it has huge balls of something on it. And that's exactly what it looked like. So for this next horn, I did basically the same thing from the rainbow eucalyptus tree and drew a basic horn and then drew circles all around it to make the cannonballs in quotation marks, as we can see, and then added some detail for the trunk, aka the horn. And it looked really nice. I liked this one too. The Frankenstein tree. The Frankenstein tree was a tree which I actually didn't know you could do this, where somebody took branches of another tree that produced fruit and kind of taped it onto another tree so that the tree would slowly mend itself to that branch and it would still produce the fruit that came from that branch. So this one guy, I forgot his name, but he essentially made a tree called the Frankenstein tree, that's what he calls these, and it was able to produce 40 different kinds of fruit like apples, oranges, plums, apricots, peaches, I think lemons and limes and cherries. Hence why for this horn, I didn't draw the tree itself. I just drew all of the fruit that was from that could be grown on a tree, such as the Frankenstein tree. I thought it would be a very nice addition to this tree collection that I'm so far been making. And I have to say, this one didn't really have a lot of fun drawing the fruit, but I did have a lot of fun learning about the Frankenstein tree. Like, I didn't know trees were that fascinating that you could literally break off a limb and put it on another one and be like, make me fruit now. I mean, obviously it's a longer process than that, but it's like, I never thought trees, the walking people, were that freaking cool. Bristlecone pine, or bristlecone pine. So this is a pine tree that I think lives in the mountains, and a lot of pictures I found on Google were a lot of dead ones that were very, very old. I think not as old as the Antarctic pine, but still relatively old. I liked this one. It gave me a little bit of meditation because it was relatively easy to make. And as you can see, this will be one of those like evergreen trees that I cypress. Now I really was excited to start a cypress tree because one of my first D&D characters' name was Juniper Cypress. But this tree itself was kind of up and down, so I kind of drew something very basic. This one I thought was really beautiful. I loved the purple pink pastel. I did not draw any leaves on this one. It's just my choice of drawing. It was very simple to draw, but this tree I did really find really pretty. Apparently you can find it also in Japan as well, which is great. If I ever traveled to Japan one day, I would definitely want to be able to see one of these. Maybe there's even some where I live as well. You never know. I mean, hell, the Japanese maple is like down the street. Who says it can't be a Chinese empress? Juvenile mangrove. This one is the only one that I consider the water plant of this group, which I'm so excited to draw a water tree slash plant. Like, it personally looks like a plant to me. I probably should have done more research, but it's fine. I really liked this one because it was very, very easy to turn this into a unicorn horn because it essentially already looked like one. Next one is the Japanese plum. Now this one, again, another really pretty plant. I decided to pick a Japanese plum plant, or not plant, tree that was blooming. And I drew basically a dark colored horn with a couple of buds and flowers branching off of it. This one was really beautiful in my opinion. I kind of would love to turn this into a full unicorn horn, or not unicorn horn, full unicorn as well. I realize I trip on my own words a lot. Hopefully I'll get over this. It's just what happens. This is how I talk. But as you can see, this is another one of my favorites. You can have favorite drawings just like how you have favorite children, parents. You know you do. I'm just kidding. I mean, it's kind of obvious if you're the middle child, but you know. Next one is the classic unicorn. I just drew a very, very basic unicorn horn. This is probably number one technically should have been, but regardless, I now have a basic unicorn. For day 29, I decided to draw a bamboo unicorn horn. I thought it'd be so cool because, well, the juvenile mangrove kind of doesn't look like a tree, so I thought, well, bamboo is kind of considered a tree, even though it's technically grass of some kind, just really tall grass. And so I thought it'd be really cool to draw bamboo. I already have so many Japanese plants, might as well, right? I really liked how this came out. I thought it was really interesting. Manchineel tree. This tree is the most toxic tree in the world. People put warning signs on this tree. Do not eat the fruit, don't touch the fruit, don't breathe in the fruit. It is the most toxic tree. And I think a toxic tree that could literally kill you is a very good way to end this. Drawing this was actually relatively difficult to draw. For some reason, the leaves just looked super hyper detailed for some reason. It's probably the reference that messed me up. But once I completed it by figuring out to use a lighter color than what the original line art was, it suddenly came together. So sometimes dark line art, you don't necessarily have to use. As long as it complements the piece, I don't think it really matters. Now let's take a look at the finished product. I think it looks really cool when they're all together. Here is the magnificent first row and the second row. The third row. The fourth row. And the last row. It looks good all together, doesn't it? Anyway, with that said, thank you for watching this video. I had a great time doing this challenge. I plan to do challenges like this again in the future. If you liked this video, like, leave a comment, subscribe, you know the routine. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and stay well.